Hello, hello. You are listening to the iHeart Movies podcast, where we discuss all things movies and then some. In this episode, we talk about top movie trilogies.
On today's episode, we'll be bantering about our favorite movie trilogies. My name is Jimmy.
MonKy.
Timmy.
Addison.
All right, fellas. Well, we are doing the best, our favorite trilogies. Not the best, right?
Yeah, I guess.
I thought you were going to say we're doing
subjective.
the best we can.
That's so subjective.
Yes, so there are no wrong answers. This is our personal list. So before we start, was this hard for any of you to do?
I'm going to go with kinda.
Kind of.
A little.
A little.
Yeah. Especially since I haven't seen a lot of these films in a long time.
Yeah.
It was based on my judgment from years ago when I was like, oh, this is the established, trilogy. And, I've just watched a bunch of new movies since then. So it's like I haven't gone back to physically watch them. So yeah, it was a little hard.
Okay. Yeah, I found that when the topic came up, the three that came to mind, but I'm like, okay, let me actually think about this. They were still the same three.
Okay.
And part of it too was I realized that for most for most trilogies, there's one in there I don't like. There's one in there I can't, because again, this is not your favorite movie.
Yeah.
This is my favorite movie, but it's a part of this series. But the rest of the series isn't good, or the sequels aren't good, or whatever. Or there's one rotten apple in there, and there's a lot of that for me. So, yeah. So I don't know if you guys found that at all into you doing your lists.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
Or just trilogies in general.
I think the my list issues were movies that I initially had written down. Some of them I ended up removing because I was like, some of these have to be in other people's lists. And I was trying to avoid that.
That was the other thing I was trying to do too. Yeah.
Oh,
I was like, so what I have are movies that they're my favorites, but like they're my honorable mentions. I'm pretty sure you guys have selected honorable mentions that are for me, like movies that I also think are great, trilogy wise.
We might have psyched each other out and picked then the trilogies that we did not think.
I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it.
Awesome,
At least for me.
awesome.
Can't speak for you.
All right. So who would like to go first? Timmy.
Start with Timmy.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
All right, starting with me. Number 1, or number 3,
Yes.
is Back to the Future.
Nice.
Those films are so well written and they're super clever. And when we have like the, which one is your favorite? I go through these different phases of which one is my favorite. I think when I was younger, it was always the second one because I just loved the future, loved the hoverboards. And then it was like, well, no, I really love the first one. And I think when I was younger, I didn't care for the third one at all. I think now the third one is my favorite. I do particularly like Westerns. It's a fantastic Western. And how it is the first movie kind of inverted as far as like the dynamics that Marty and Doc have. And they have the same sort of scene where they're going to Doc's garage and his blacksmith shop. And it's like, oh, here comes the woman. She's looking for Marty. Quick, hide the DeLorean. Hide. And it's like right after the whole like, oh, here's the sorry, it's not to scale scene on how we're going to get back to the future. And then they do that exact same scene. But now the woman is coming for Doc, and Marty's the one who's like, oh, great Scott. And then Doc goes, yeah, it's heavy.
There's that word again.
When I was bouncing around with all of these different trilogy ideas, I went with this one because it is a proper trilogy that hasn't had any subsequent sequels. Zemeckis and Bob Gale were like, no, we're not doing a fourth one. It's done. There's the end, and that's it. And I'm really glad that they've yet to remake it or try to do some sequel, years after that inevitably would just not like. I don't think it would capture that kind of magic again.
Lightning in a bottle, no. And I don't know how real this is.
Hiding in a clock tower.
That's right. I've heard that Robert Zemeckis actually has it in his contract that as long as he's alive, there will never be a Back to the Future 4.
I'm gonna be so sad when he goes.
Yeah, Bob Gale, on the other hand, would love to make more, but that's why he did the video game. So the video game that he wrote is like considered what Back to the Future 4 would be. And then we recently had the musical also,
yes,
which Bob Gale was completely involved with. So yeah, he's okay with milking this.
And Ready Player One, he drove a DeLorean, the main character, right?
Yeah, he did.
Raced the DeLorean, so it was a neat.
Which was which is extra funny because in Ready Player One, which was directed by Steven Spielberg, Back to the Future was produced by Steven Spielberg.
Oh, there's tons of Spielberg stuff all over Ready Player One.
Well, the book had even more, and Spielberg was like, I need to take all this out because otherwise it looks like I'm just like, look how awesome I am. Just all of my stuff. So in some ways, he was not the right director for that movie. Because it's like all about his stuff, but then it's almost weird. It's like he's kind of shy about it too. Like,
he's awesome.
There's everyone has insecurities, and
yeah.
Makes him human.
I would like to see an Eric Stoltz cut of the first Back to the Future.
Yes,
because didn't they say they had like
a lot,
most or all?
Like, it was like 70%.
Yeah, it wasn't like, all, but it was a lot of it.
Yeah. And that's why they were able to get the dailies and they were able to edit it enough to know that it wasn't working because it wasn't a scene. Mm-hmm. You know, it was the flow of the entire movie. The tone was just not there. Yeah. And we all know Eric Stoltz is a phenomenal actor, but sometimes you just
he's not funny.
It's not the right fit. Yeah. And that's what this was, especially because when Bob Gale, I don't know if it was when he was exactly writing it, but their first choice was Michael J. Fox. Mm-hmm. Like there was no second choice.
Yeah.
So they ended up going with the guy that they wanted with anyway. Which, by the way, movie studio producers, this goes to show you as a lesson: don't be cheap. Mm-hmm. Like this is a do it right the first time because you could actually have saved yourselves a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And then imagine this movie. Decades and decades later, we're still watching. Like we've passed the timeline of the future of that movie, and we're still watching it. We're still talking about it. Look, I don't know if you're watching the video, you can see the merch. I've spent a lot of money on this franchise because I love it so much. But that wouldn't happen if the movie wasn't good. Mm-hmm. So, just a lesson. Just a lesson.
Did this land on anyone else's list?
No, this was omitted from mine. This was initially on my list, but I removed it
because I was going to do it.
I'm going to bet $10 that we have the same list in the same order.
So it landed on yours?
It's my number 3.
Okay, because it's my number 3. And I wanted to share a little story. I actually watched this trilogy. So I most recently watched this trilogy, I don't know, a few weeks ago. The previous time that I watched the trilogy straight through, I actually said, nope, I don't like 2 and 3. I actually really don't like these movies at all because the first one is so good. And so I completely shut them out. I kind of like, as I was watching them, I'm like, no, this just doesn't even hold up. So I was watching with a group of friends and I just kind of tuned it out. And then I recently watched it and I was like, no, this is good. I enjoy these. It's really, it was a weird thing. And so for this one, actually, this is where the first movie is my favorite of the list.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And
cool.
You'll find out later.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I'm much like what Timmy was saying. I also have gone through phases of each one. Yeah, and I think I'm with you. The second one was always my favorite just because of all the future stuff, and like that's all I wanted to see. And then I realized like later, well, the first one is just so it's written so perfectly. The 3 of them are great, obviously, but the first one is like solid. Like you want to talk about greatest just scripts ever written. Forget the movie, just the way it's written. Back to the Future is on that list for sure. Not the biggest fan of Westerns, so I was never a fan of 3. Never a fan. And then, and this is probably just some bias or something, but 2 years ago or so, I got to meet the cast at MegaCon. So we got it with me and my wife. We got our picture with them. We got to talk to them, and it was wonderful. Michael J. Fox with his Parkinson's it was difficult, I will say, to see him that way. Because when I think of him, I think of Marty. I think of Marty McFly. But seeing him there and his struggle to autograph our movie poster we had a line going, right, and he had a handler, and they would give him the object, whether a hoverboard or whatever it may be, and he's signing it, and then he would move on to the next thing, right? And it's like, oh, thank you, and move on to the next thing. And with ours, he said, he looked at the handler and he said, no. And I'm like, oh no, he's not gonna be able to sign it. And I thought he was gonna leave, but he gathered himself, and he kind of like, it's almost like he was talking to himself, like under his breath, to prep himself up. And I said, so he grabbed our pen, because there's a specific pen that I like, because it's like a silver chrome mirror effect, one that we have. And he practiced on the table with it, and he did it. And he goes, no. And he's shaking his head, nodding his head, no. And he did it again. Boom. Went to sign it, and he said, nope. No. I'm like, oh, he might have to go. He might have, but you know what? It's if he can't do it, then he can't do it. But right before that, he's just like, and he does it one more time, and he signs it, and he looks at the handler and he goes, yep. So then it's all right. So then the handler gives him the movie poster, and it's the first one, the famous one with the DeLorean looking at his watch. And he goes, does like that. And he signs it. And I just look at him, I'm like, thank you. Like I was like, Michael, thank you so much. Like, that meant so much. I know that was a struggle for you, but you did it. And he just looked up, and he's like kind of smiling, like, yeah, I did do it. So like that alone was worth it. You know? And then let alone talking to the other ones, and all the questions and stuff we had. So my point in all that is like, that just gave me 1,000. I already loved the movies, obviously, the whole trilogy, even the third one. But I was like, let's rewatch these again, and just like that experience made me see it in a different light, sort of way. And for some reason, and I both had the same reaction. It's like, why didn't we like the third one? Because she also said the same thing. She's like, the third one always like, oh, we'll watch 1 and 2 a lot, and then we'll just we know how it ends. We don't have to watch the third one. But this time we watched it all, and we're like, you know what? The third one's really good. It is really good for all the reasons that you were saying. I love that it's the clock tower, like it's the building of it. So it's like there's 3 points in time where Hill Valley, it's also this kind of the story of Hill Valley too, like the town, as much it is of Marty and Doc and everything. So I love it. Were you gonna add to it?
Oh no, I think some of it stems from the liking westerns as you get older. I think it's just as people age, the sort of nostalgia of seeing things of a time that just predates your own existence, and the sort of struggle, like in a way, like the Old West is the last frontier of Earth, like of the history of modern civilization. Like this was the last of it before everything became like industrialized. And so I think as a kid, your children are usually more looking toward the future, sci-fi, stuff like that. But as you get older, you start looking toward the past because you've already now lived through a life. So I don't know. That's just something I think for a lot of people, Westerns is something they tend to like more as they get older. And it seems like as I've gotten older, I like Westerns more and more than I did when I was a kid. So I don't know. That's just an observation.
I thoroughly enjoyed the models that Doc always set up in the middle of like how things were going to work out, and
to scale
exactly, and it was awesome. And then there was just always something so satisfying about that opening in the first film, where you just watch things as they ping pong down, and you see the food get overrun. You're like, oh wait, nobody's home. It's like all of these little visual cues that. It's already telling you the story. Somebody's not here. What's going on? It's just
like I would say all 3 of those movies, they're like just a master class in foreshadowing.
Yes.
So it's just like that opening sequence. You have the little man hanging off the clock.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's gonna happen later.
Buster Keaton.
It's like, oh, pay attention to this. No,
is that Buster Keaton?
Not Buster Keaton, because it was Safety Last. It was another silent era star. I forget his name. Harold Claude. Fact check.
Yep, fact check. Time for a fact check.
There's a Claude Hardy. No, that's a completely different guy. we can find that later.
Yeah, I think it's Safety Last.
Safety Last. Look it up that way.
Safety Not Guaranteed. Another time travel movie. That is not a trilogy.
So let me see. This would be Harold Lloyd.
Harold Lloyd.
Harry and
Close.
Lloyd.
Harry Lloyd.
Wait a minute. Did we just... Is that can't be an accident.
We'll have to look that up later.
What?
We'll look that up later. I don't want to get into this now.
That's a worm can. It's
Harry
been
and Lloyd from
opened.
Dumb and Dumber. So Safety Last starring Harold Lloyd.
Harold
Harry
Lloyd.
and Lloyd. Wow.
I just got
It's Harry Dunn and
I got
Lloyd
goosebumps.
Christmas. Yeah. Holy
That's
cow.
weird.
Woo! And this is what we do. This is what we do all day, every day.
Movies.
All
We
day,
just
every day.
captured
Movies,
Discovery.
Oh my gosh. I wanted to say one last thing with Back to the Future though.
Yeah.
Because I asked Tom Wilson about this just to confirm it. Eric Stoltz is in Back to the Future.
Mhm.
It's his hand because he's the one that punches Biff when they're getting the milkshakes and stuff. That's his fist because he was saying he's like, we didn't refilm it when Michael J came in. So he's like, you'll never hear an executive admit that, because if they admitted that, then maybe Eric Stoltz's agents or something can make some sort of argument. Hey, my hand is in this movie. I deserve some
25,000 nickels.
25,000 nickels.
Exactly.
He'd get such little amount of money, even after all these years. It's whatever. Executives suck.
But just to say that he's in it.
Yeah.
Like, this is me. But yeah, I would also love release the Stoltz cut. Let's start this right now.
Okay. All right. So we've done our three, obviously.
So this is our 3. Yeah, we've done. So what's your number 3?
My number 3, not Back to the Future or even really time travel. So my third trilogy film, which is really what kind of sparked the whole trilogy conversation altogether, is Unbreakable, Split, and Glass. First off, for anyone out there who's not familiar with the fact that all 3 of those movies are a part of a trilogy, but Unbreakable, which came out in 2000, starring Bruce Willis, it's M. Night's second film, his sophomore film, and it is the first act of a much larger film that he wanted to do but decided not to, and he just made Unbreakable. And then, fast forward 17 some years, he finally decides to make the second act and third act of what I think was originally supposed to be one movie, and he split it up into 3. And I love it. It's to me the best comic book oriented hero's journey sort of story that could be done, and also at the same time like observing the comic book archetype. And it's a very meta film, and yeah, I don't know, I really like it, and I recommend it to anyone.
Yeah, and it's one of those, like, it's a superhero movie that you don't have to like superheroes.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Like, it's a superhero movie without any of the
third act laser
without
falling from the sky, mumbo jumbo.
It's a superhero film where if you took out even the conversation of comic books out of the movie, you wouldn't know it's a superhero movie.
Yeah,
at all.
Right.
Like, it's not that kind of movie.
And I love in the commentary for Unbreakable where Shyamalan, or Shamhammer as I call him, he talks about Bruce Willis's The Raincoat.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's his costume, and he's got like the cape and everything.
That's
and
his. That's his cape.
And I still haven't seen it.
And you still haven't seen
No,
it
because it's not available to stream anywhere, and the only time
I forgot to bring it to give.
That's
to you,
okay.
But I will. But I'll bring that next time.
Okay.
Next time we get together,
Sounds
I'll bring
good.
it for you.
Yeah, when Split came out,
2016. I was just double checking the dates.
it made me like Shyamalan again because
there was a lot to
there
not
was
like.
a lot of not good movies.
Wow. Yeah.
I remember being in the theater, and Shyamalan did not direct The Devil, but he produced it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the trailer looks awesome. 6 strangers locked in an elevator, but one of them's the devil. And it's just so claustrophobic and it's just frightening. And it's just like, from the horror mastermind, M. Night Shyamalan. And then everybody starts laughing. It's just like, oh, no. And that really turned me off from seeing that movie, which I think I've heard is actually pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
But just from his track record leading up to that, it was just disappointment after disappointment.
But you know what really saved Shyamalan was actually Jason Blum, because The Visit was that was when he did write and direct, and he did it found footage style. because that was all the rage in the early 2010s with Paranormal Activity kind of kicking it off again. And there was other ones. I forget the names of them. I don't like most of them. I don't know. Cloverfield? Do we think Cloverfield?
Cloverfield's
That's
really,
found footage. That's
yeah.
what
Started it?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe Cloverfield
Started what?
The found footage craze again?
Oh, started it back up?
Yeah, to bring it back up. Because we know Blair Witch was like the
Blair
OG
Witch
Blair Witch is the OG
one.
of that.
But
UCF
that was-
filmmakers, by the way.
Yes, they are still.
They're not filmmakers anymore. Or they didn't go to UCF?
Or they
What?
died?
What does this mean? I'm sorry.
They took the degrees back.
They said we hate this movie so much.
No, I would say Paranormal Activity is what started it
Back up.
back up.
Back up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
That movie's so
like
terrifying. God.
Cloverfield just sort of predates it. It is found footage, but I don't think that's what picked it back up. I think it just happened to be a part of that genre.
Okay.
Style.
Yeah. I don't know. It might have been Jason Blum himself or one of the directors or somebody that worked on Paranormal Activity, but I thought it was an interesting interview where they said they got asked like, hey, all the craze of the found footage, why is this okay when Blair Witch did this a long time ago and it didn't catch on like with the rest of the industry or whatever? And the answer was like, well, because we all have smartphones now. So we're all used to watching shaky camera footage. Before it was people would watch Blair Witch and want to throw up. So not everybody could watch it. But now that's not as much of the problem.
Okay. I didn't know that. That makes sense.
So I thought that was an interesting.
And I think where you're thinking Cloverfield might have kicked it off, I think it kicked off the like huge expansion of the world to be able to do the found footage, like the VFX,
The special effects
all
found
of that
footage
kind
that
of
you could
stuff,
do,
as
yeah.
opposed to it being more contained and like in a forest or whatever. Exactly. Yeah.
I think if anything that allowed for the idea of giant monster films to
Yes,
come back.
exactly.
Like, that kind of revitalized that,
Yeah.
if you ask me.
Oh,
Exactly.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Godzilla,
The new Godzillas
was
and King
not
Kongs
that long after that. It was a couple years after that. Yeah.
I loved the marketing for Cloverfield.
Yeah.
It was just minimalist and
Yeah.
clever.
And it had a
It
clever
was Cleverfield.
log line, right? Or tagline. I remember seeing something on the poster.
I just remember the poster.
Yeah.
Yeah, the poster's awesome.
It was just like, see our movie. We're not giving you anything.
the answer.
Watch it.
The tagline is something has found us.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
That's a good tagline.
Yes.
That's a good one.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
All right, so we want to move on to our number twos.
Well, why don't you start off the twos?
I'll start my number two.
Just so
Okay.
we keep it circular.
$10. We have the same one.
$10, huh?
Lord of the Rings.
That's my number one.
That would be your number one. I knew that would be your number one.
Of course, it's number one.
I omitted Lord of the Rings
Because
from
you knew
mine,
that it would be on our list.
even though Return of the King is one of my top 5 favorite films of all time.
Oh, wow.
Wow. So do you have a favorite of the trilogy? Because there's one I've seen probably twice as many as the other two combined, even though I love all three of them.
I don't know. Whichever one I'm watching at the moment
Is your favorite.
currently my favorite because I tend to watch one and then watch the next and then watch the next.
Okay.
So I don't think there was ever a moment where it's just like, oh, I'm watching a lot of Two Towers. It's like, oh well, let's watch Lord of the Rings. You start with Fellowship and then etc.
So I don't really remember these movies at all. I just know that Lord of the Rings Return of the King is one of my top 5. I remember it established that point a long time ago. I haven't seen these movies in forever, but I always, for some reason, remember thinking Two Towers was the least of the 3 and like kind of by far, and I don't know why.
I don't know.
It's my favorite.
Yeah, Two Towers is.
So I'm going to need to watch the trilogy again because it's like, Fellowship, great. Then it was like, and then Return of the King for me is my.
It's
that's my
really
pinnacle.
difficult for me to try to choose one because even if I'm trying to like strip them down objectively, which one's the best? I don't know. Frankly, I don't want to know. And not only is it a trilogy, it is also just one big movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 12-hour movie.
Yes.
Where there's also like kind of like this thing, well, does it even count as a trilogy? Because I think it's just one big movie because they shot it all at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's just delivered in installments.
Yes.
It's like a mini series.
Someone's a little bit of a hypocrite over here.
Maybe I am.
Because of Dune.
Well, no. So let me give you a chance to defend myself.
Okay. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Fellowship of the Ring is by far my favorite one.
By far your favorite.
By far, yes.
Okay.
To the point where I will say I've watched Fellowship alone easily more than twice as much as the other two combined. Because it to me is like background also. It's a background movie. We could probably do an episode just on that.
I don't have background movies.
You don't have background movies?
I've tried background movies. They turn into movies.
Oh, yeah.
Like you just can't not
I
watch
can't
it.
not.
It's funny. I distinctly remember that happening with The Social Network. I was like trying to pack for moving to Los Angeles, and I just was like, "Oh, I'll put this on in the background." I literally sat on the edge of my bed and just watched it for 2 hours. It's the same
The
thing.
soundtrack's so good.
I needed to clean, and I put on The Irishman because it also has a wonderful soundtrack. And I sat down and I watched The Irishman.
All 7 hours of it?
Yeah, instead of doing
Season 1 of
everything
The
I
Irishman?
needed to do.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to watch this.
That's why I can only do sports. When I
Can't do
have
it.
Sports on in the background. I can't do movies. Yeah.
Sure. That's so funny because for me, it's I guess because I've seen it so much that it's at some point it's just background noise, but comfortable, good background noise. But for you, it's the opposite effect.
It's because it's more
drawing
like
you in.
It's like, what have I not seen? And I've seen these movies so many times, and I rewatched them recently, and you see little things, or it's just like, I've noticed this. Well, I forgot about that, or I never picked up on these details. Or if you're just looking at like the lighting, I'm just like, yeah, this lighting is unrealistic, but why do I buy it? And it's just, you accept it all. And it's just wonderful to watch through and through over and over again.
Yeah.
And
Completely agree.
maybe there's a part of me that's like, well, I can't not sit here and give it my full attention. And I think there's a part of that.
It deserves
where
our
it's
full
just like,
attention.
I can't not do that. Like I can't just let it play and walk away and do something else.
Yeah. This might start a whole nother discussion.
It feels like it's becoming one.
Do you feel that the theatrical is better or the extended is better? Or maybe not better, but which one do you prefer?
I think there's parts of both cuts that I like and dislike. There's some things in the, like as far as the theatrical goes, I think they're definitely tighter.
Yes.
The tighter films.
Agree.
There are extended scenes, like in the special extended editions that I can go like, yeah, that's fun to be in here, but we don't need it.
Right. Yeah.
Or like Saruman in Return of the King. It's weird going into a movie theater and you're watching a movie that's 3 hours and 50 minutes long and go, oh, why did they cut that? I want more.
Because time is relative in films. The length.
Make it 4 hours. But I understand that they had like a lot of issues filming that sequence. And that was one of the pickups that they filmed, I think, after they won Best Picture. So they were doing a bunch of pickup shots for the special extended edition that they had done after the movie, not only after the movie was released, but after they had already won Best Picture.
So we're improving the Best Picture to be an even better picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's my kind of weird answer. Part of the reason I love Fellowship as much as I do compared to the other two, and I love the three, is its tightness. It's the pace. It's how it moves. There's going to the audio of it, and I don't mean the soundtrack or the score. I mean the whole thing. There's just a smoothness to it that's almost familiar, like a song. You know when the guitar riff is coming to your favorite, rock ballad song. You even know if there's a mistake in there in the song where you can hear where maybe the guitar player messed up a little bit, but it doesn't matter. You love it that much, if not even more, because of it, because there's that human element to it. And that's how I feel about Fellowship. The other two, I prefer the extended versions. So my ideal watching is watching the theatrical cut of Fellowship and then the extended versions of Two Towers and Return of the King, which might sound weird. That's probably weird.
And it's funny because Return of the King, it's like it ends 3 times in the extended cut. Like you're just like, okay, we're still going. All right.
It's like hold, fade to black.
Yep.
Fade back in.
Right?
Hold.
It's like
fade to white.
It's like post-credit scenes before they started doing post-credit scenes.
That's but
that's
they're
a good
like
way of
pre-credit
putting it,
scenes.
Yeah. But they made it's like, we'll just put this before the credits.
Well, I want to say it's like when the ring is destroyed, there's still a good 45 minutes left of the movie.
I know.
Yeah.
They do a really good job of dilating the time that those 3 films encompass, like Fellowship of the Ring. Well, one, the first 15 minutes is a couple thousand years. But then when Gandalf is like, I'm going to leave. Keep it secret. Keep it safe. He's gone for 17 years in the book anyway. And then he comes back and they just kind of gloss over it. And it's like, you don't need to pack in 17 years of filler. But that last 45 minutes is 4 years. And it would be difficult to try to, like, if you want to end the film how the book ends with, well, I'm back and Sam going into his hobbit hole with his family. How do you do that without cutting out so much?
Oh, you couldn't.
Yeah.
No,
so I think
it had to end the way it did. Is just
Yeah.
It is what it is.
For if someone's watching it and they're not familiar with the books, they're just kind of like, what are we? No, we're not done. Like, what? Yeah.
So my wife thinks the movies they're pretty cool, but can't stand that ending to the point where it's like I don't want to go through this.
So when does it end for her?
At the start, it never starts. Because anytime I brought, you want to watch these movies, and it's always I mean, it makes you happy, and it's like, no, I'm not gonna make you go through that. Also, one of her best friends, that's his favorite movie series ever. Like, and he's not even like a huge movie guy, but this is like one of those, because he also loved the books and all that. So this is like his jam. Yeah. So I think that also kind of like, she's kind of over it. Yeah. She's just over the whole franchise as a whole.
So my number 2 series is technically not a trilogy.
Okay.
But I think it is, because I don't think the 4th one should have been made. Toy Story. The Toy Story trilogy.
Okay.
1 through 3.
It counts.
The 3rd one is
Aren't they making a 5th one?
They are
beautiful.
making a 5th
They
one.
are.
Okay. All right.
Am I going to watch it? Of course I am. But the 3rd one ended perfectly. I cried in theaters.
Oh, yeah.
And that is actually my favorite of the 3 films because of how it wrapped up. And
it's the Andy trilogy.
Yes.
Because like Star Wars has obviously all of it's trilogy of trilogies at this point, and there's going to be even more.
Then there's the soulless money grabs.
Yeah, exactly. All those Star Wars stories and stuff like that. But yeah, and Lord of the Rings, obviously, they had The Hobbit later. But, so it's the Middle-earth saga, but it's the Lord of the Rings trilogy and then the Hobbit trilogy. So with Toy Story, as it's been called, at least online, it's like the Andy trilogy, because it's him.
That makes sense.
Right, it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Beginning, middle, and end of Andy's story.
Yes.
So, and I don't know what the 5th one's going to be as of the recording. This is not out yet. So, but we'll see when it comes out. But I doubt it'll have anything to do with him.
Probably not. Yeah.
So I was actually looking up different series and how some of the trilogies, like Indiana Jones, for example, it kind of falls into the same category as
which
Toy
is what I thought you were about to say instead of Toy Story. So he said 4.
Man, and
It's
I
not
love
Indiana
Indy, but I
Jones.
left it off because...
It's 5 films now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which
and
I
which would
do like the 5th one.
I like the 5th one. The 4th one
a pet trilogy.
sucks.
A pet trilogy?
A pen trilogy.
Pen
I think it's pen trilogy.
like Pentagon.
Yeah, like Pentagon.
Okay, sure.
And then there's like there was like tetralogy is like 4, even though there's also like quadrilogy that you could use.
Yeah.
Quadrilogy.
I like quadrilogy.
I was like looking up lists of like where it's just like what do you call these?
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh, trilogy. Evidently, if it's a sequel, it's a duology.
Yes, I have seen that before.
Which I think is a little
Duality.
much.
No, just double feature.
It's just it's
It's
a
Dumb and
sequel.
Dumber.
Dunology.
Stop making Dune work.
The Duneverse.
Trying to inject Dune.
Dune, where's my car?
I'm just trying to trigger you.
I broke MonKy.
Going with the purist of the trilogy. It's like, well, we can't really do that unless you do that sort of reframing thing, like the original trilogy of Star Wars, or the Andy trilogy of Toy Story, like that. Then I guess you could go with the Republic serials of Indy, because the latter films are also of a different genre. The fourth film era is more
50s B films,
50s science fiction picture. And then the fifth one is more of that like 60s conspiracy movie.
Yeah. Of course.
And even though they still
like post-Kennedy and then Nixon.
They still harken back to the original films, but they're not, like 4 and 5 are not Republic serials.
Right.
Are they making a sixth to round out?
Not with Harrison Ford.
Okay.
They're making a sixth in general?
They're not making a sixth one. But no, Harrison Ford has said he is done.
Yeah, he's done.
Okay. But no, they don't. Lucasfilm and Disney will not let that die. Although the fifth one did not do well at all in the theater.
Which is sad.
It is sad. I did like it. I enjoyed it. I didn't think it's one of the greatest things ever, but I had fun with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't like it.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Here's what's crazy. With the whole Indiana Jones trilogy, we were talking about like, oh, did you have one rotten apple? I know this is an unpopular opinion, and I'm gonna be hated for it.
Temple of Doom.
Temple of Doom sucks.
Oh yeah, it does suck.
I love Temple of Doom.
It is a bad movie.
Oh, good. Okay.
But
there's things I love in it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think it is a popular opinion to say that you do not like Temple of Doom. I think that is
that's
across the
popular.
board, or at least definitely in the original 3 films.
It's even popular for Spielberg. He doesn't like Temple.
It's the least liked film.
He also hates Hook, and I love Hook. So
I don't like Hook either.
But definitely growing
Spielberg.
up, Temple of Doom was my favorite.
Growing up
for sure.
Okay. Because of Short Round?
Yes.
You imagine yourself?
Yeah. I wanted to be Short Round, and I wanted Indiana Jones to be my best friend.
I love that. And for some reason, the bridge scene, for some reason, I just really love that.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but as a kid, I don't know. We like things that we like. I don't know why. But that, Short Round, and then that bridge scene. I was like, that to me was it.
Jonathan Keyquan.
And look at Key now.
Academy Award winner. Look at him.
He was a Goonie.
He was a Goonie.
Data.
He's going to be in this new Valentine's movie, which looks fun. This little action movie.
007 stuff.
Yeah.
All of his gadgets. He was so cool. Favorite Goonie.
Yeah.
Unpopular opinion. I don't like the Goonies. That's right.
We should do an unpopular opinions episode.
Yeah.
So we'll save it. We'll save it for that.
Okay.
We'll save it for that.
Click that one.
Post it.
Is that how
somewhere
this
now.
works?
At some point, yeah.
It'll be in the future.
It'll be in the future.
Or the past.
All right.
That's not how time works.
So, my number 2 is the Vengeance trilogy by Chan-wook Park.
I don't even know this.
It is it's a South Korean series.
Okay.
I love them.
Of course you do.
Before you go on, because I made a list of what the internet considers as unofficial trilogies.
Yeah.
And this is on the list.
This is an unofficial trilogy.
It's an unofficial trilogy. So since they haven't, because I've seen the 3, because by your recommendation, to just explain why it's considered a trilogy, even though they're not in the same series.
So if you look at these 3 films, they are in no way connected. So there are there's no like main character that is in all 3 films. They don't all tell the same story, but they all deal with revenge, and they are masterfully done. So the first film is Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. The second film is Oldboy.
Yeah.
And the third film is Lady Vengeance.
Also great.
Yeah. And Oldboy was the first film that I had watched. Saw it in like 2008, and it blew me away. I needed more. And there was more. And it's like, oh, there are 2 other films. then I'm like, oh well, why is this? It's a trilogy, but they're in no way connected. And Choi Min-sik, who plays Odaisu in Oldboy, plays the villainous character in the third film, but a completely different character. But it's all about revenge. They're just 3 really good revenge stories, and they are intense. If you've not seen them, watch them cautiously. Yes. Watch them prepared.
In one sitting, and don't look up any spoilers.
Oh, yeah, no.
Okay. Yeah, just sit there and watch them.
Yeah, they're a treat.
I might subject myself to this and watch all 3 because I watched Oldboy and I just don't like it.
Now you are talking about the South Korean film, not to be confused with a Spike Lee remake.
Correct.
Okay, because Spike Lee, speaking of directors that don't like their own movies, we should do an episode on that.
Yeah,
it doesn't even want to take credit. Take his name off.
Yeah.
Take his name
off.
off.
A film directed by Spike Lee.
Yeah, as opposed to a Spike Lee joint, which is what he's known to give himself credit for, because the movie that he made is not the movie that was released.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, about the American remake of of Oldboy,
Starring Thanos.
yes, but that
You mean the Goonie?
The Goonie, yeah.
that film was in the works pretty much since Oldboy had come out in 2003, and who directed Saw? First one,
James Wan.
James Wan.
Yeah.
I don't know how attached he was to it, but I had heard that they wanted to get him to do it because just of the grisly nature of it all, the visceralness of it, and then nothing panned out. But the next person to really pick it up was Spielberg. Spielberg wanted to do it.
What?
And he wanted to cast
on just Spielberg movies that almost happened.
And he wanted to cast Will Smith as the title character.
Oh no. No.
And
that would not have worked.
That would have not have gone well for him.
No.
At all. And then eventually it went to Spike Lee and Brolin.
Brolin was a better pick, for sure. Will Smith was also supposed to be Neo in The Matrix.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
And no. History worked out the way it was supposed to because that would not have worked.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking
Another
of
trilogy,
speaking
which
of
I
trilogies,
left off because the other 2 are terrible.
Yeah, and I'm a defender of the second one. I really enjoy the second one.
It's okay.
The third one is the one that just so bad,
hot garbage,
so bad.
The first one is so good.
Yeah,
and that is what's like.
It is a revolutionary film.
Yes,
for sure. That holds up, and in some ways watches better today than it did back then.
Yeah, and it's not a trilogy anymore.
That's true because they added the 4th one.
Oh yeah,
which I also hated. I think I hated that one more than the other 2.
I didn't finish it actually.
Wow, that's movies we couldn't finish. That's an episode right there.
That is an episode.
And most of the times I power through it. I was like a good 2/3 of the way through, and it was just like I paused it to go do something, and then I just decided to not unpause it.
That's even worse. That's worse than just walking out on it.
It was like.
It's not even worth
I gotta go to the bathroom. Oh, maybe I'll go eat something. Oh, let me get something to drink.
What was I doing?
I don't know if I'm gonna watch the rest of this.
Yeah, that's funny.
I'm good here.
As time progressed, you lost interest more and more.
So that was one of the movies that was released free on HBO or
too expensive
HBO Max. So I didn't pay for the movie, and I still wanted my money back. Type of thing. All right, and we're
moving on.
So
my number 2.
No, your number 2.
My number 2. All right, Clerks.
We're moving on.
So
is that a cow sound?
Seemed a little cowish.
Yeah.
We're sympathetic.
So yeah, no. Clerks. I guess technically trilogy. Now that there's 3,
yeah.
And of them, the second one is my favorite, which is what features movies. But oddly enough, part of the reason why I love those movies so much is the first Clerks film wasn't a favorite of mine whatsoever, but it's what laid the groundwork for Kevin Smith to have his career. Clerks 2, fantastic film, utilizing the characters from the original. And then I felt like Clerks 3 was a good ending to that overall story involving the friendship between the two guys. And then also the fact that in Clerks 2, there's several talks of trilogies.
Yes.
And then they talk about, you got Randall, who's representing essentially kind of like the younger Kevin Smith, going on about how there's only one original trilogy, which is the Star Wars trilogy, the episodes 4 through 6. And then you have these two other guys going on about Lord of the Rings, which you guys were for so long, and all I kept thinking about was the scene in Clerks 2 where Randall's showing the 3. He goes into the 3. It was like it's just 3 movies about people walking. And it's like,
I love what is it, part 2? He's walking and it's like, oh wait,
yeah, it's like,
and then
the third one is just
take the ring, throw it in,
and then he just does this shrug. Oh god,
he's not wrong.
And I saw Clerks 2 3 times in the theater. I laughed so hard every single time through the whole trilogy conversation. So that's why I made my list. There you go.
So my number 1 is the most obvious answer in the world. I was trying to see about something else, but it would be a lie. And it is the original Star Wars trilogy. It has to be. Mm-hmm. It's the movies I've seen by far the most in my life, over and over again. Oh, yeah. I've owned them on VHS, on DVD, on Blu-ray, digitally, the subscription to the streaming services. And every time it comes out, some sort of new version of it, I'm a sucker. And I'll watch them again. Mm-hmm. And I will look for the differences. And I think those movies, oddly enough, we were talking about the background noise type of background movies. I think those are ones that are harder for me to do because precisely I want to look for. I'm looking at different parts of the screen. Like I've literally watched it going, I'm just going to watch the top left part of the screen. Mm-hmm. What's here? Mm-hmm. What's going on back here? What's this about? Because I already know the dialogue. I already know what's going to happen. Over here, I'll do what's on the top right of the screen, the bottom, and just like that. I'm just looking at that sort of thing. So, and it's not just, and it's one of those things. It's not just the movies. It is a whole universe, isn't it? It's the toys, it's the video games, it's the merchandise, it's the theme park. It's an entire. It sounds stupid saying it, but it's an entire lifestyle.
It's an ethos.
It's an ethos, yes, because you get lost in it, and then those were the first movies that at least I can remember as a kid going, how did they do this? I need to know how this was made. So my interest was not just what was on screen, but what was behind the camera as well. Mm-hmm. And so with the DVDs coming out and all that, and just even pre-DVD, like I need, there's the magazines, and like I want to get into this. There was the extended universe, which I think, what's it called now since it's been decanonized?
Fan fiction.
that too, but anyway, but back then it was the extended universe, and it was like all these books and all that, because it's a whole history of things leading up to it and then after it, and then these books. And I was a part of the Scholastic Book Club, especially with Phantom Menace coming out, which whatever you might think of that movie, but there was so much material to be a part of this one thing, and it was also the first movie, which we can do a whole episode just about this. It was the first movie that I saw in the movie theater, Phantom Menace was, that I said, I need to watch this again immediately. Like the idea of like, oh no, you watch a movie and you saw it and cool, and then you move on to another one. Mm-hmm. But to me, it was like, I need to see this again, mm-hmm. Please. Can I see this again?
If you want to have a conversation about this, I'm game, because I've got plenty of Star Wars stories.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I did that same thing with Fellowship of the Ring. I was like home sick from school, and I did not see it in theaters. And my dad had bought it, and I watched it. And like the first 15 minutes, I'm thinking, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen. And I watched the entire movie. The credits were rolling. And then my older brother gets home, and I tell him, Steven, I just watched the greatest movie ever made. Do you want to watch it? I was like, but you just watch it. It's like, I want to watch it again. And I did. So it's like, I get that, like, you're introduced to it and you need more, or just over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll bet there's a version that you probably think less of, if not dislike, of this Star Wars trilogy.
You're setting me up.
Yeah, he is.
Because you already know this answer.
Seems like a setup.
It seems like a setup.
When they digitally added all the BS into all the frames and like the
that's not what I thought you
special
were talking
effects and all that.
McClunky.
Yes. And made Jabba so much bigger and
and then the
smaller? I'm
digital
not sure what
because
they did
that
with
was a deleted scene.
Yeah.
In the New Hope. Because it was actually a guy. There was a guy playing him, and then they just, they
made him
George
a slug
or whoever decided to make
for
him
the third movie.
Yeah,
That's when they actually changed him.
So here's the thing. So when we talk about the special editions, we were talking about extended versions earlier, right? So essentially, the special editions are just basically that. They're just extended versions. I prefer the originals in many, many ways, but some. I have seen the copies of the original. My uncle has them. Timmy gifted me a despecialized edition, if you will. The thing about the special editions that some people don't give it enough credit is that they did clean up a lot of the imagery, the sound, syncing some stuff, resyncing some stuff. So there was a lot of technical things that improved upon it than the original copy, I guess. But it's the adding of the scenes that jars us the most. And I don't even necessarily hate the scenes' existence. I hate what they look like because it doesn't match. Like if they had done it the same where it was puppets again and they wanted to add it into that way, I would be fine with them. I might not necessarily think they're better than the originals because it messes with the pacing or whatever, because pacing is huge for me in a movie. Like if you're going and a pace just something derails it, because now I'm not in it anymore. You've now taken me out. And that's what those special editions do. That said, I will still watch them. And I still do. And like I said, every time they come out with a new version, I'm part of the problem. And I understand that because I will buy it again and I will watch it again. And then I'll discuss it again. Right. So they know these giant corporations, they're oh, here you go. Like, and we can complain about all the sequels and everything, but I will watch Spider-Man every time that they make it because I love Spider-Man a lot too. So like every MCU movie, I'm pretty much in. I'm in. So... But I do watch the independent films as well, so I'm varied in that sense. Can I tell you a quick story about the first time I saw the original Star Wars? It actually was the special editions in the theater. Because remember, it was released in 1997 because it was the 20th anniversary. And that George Lucas basically admitted like that those were just done for tests for what would eventually be
Episode 1.
Yep. So more than anything, it was just a test to see if that would work and if people would be willing to view it. So obviously I was born after Star Wars came out. And
you were?
I was. Star Wars has been ever present in my life. I think in most people's lives post set in 1977, it's just been around us, all around us, right? So I knew that it was a thing, but to me it was more like there was the toys, there was the games, and then people wore the shirts or whatever. And I, for whatever reason, just up until that point, I thought, well, this movie looks old. It's an old thing. I'm not going to watch this. It's old. I want to watch new. What's this new? I want new stuff. And my neighbor kind of Jedi mind tricked me into going to see the movies because she knew I love to go to the movie theater. And she was trying to get me to watch the original ones the original ones, the special edition versions. And I would have, no, I don't want to see those. And they're old. They're old. Why would I watch those things? They're old. So she tricked me and was like, hey, we're going to go watch this movie, the movie theater. Do you want to come with me? And I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah, absolutely. I like movies. I like the movies.
To the theater means it's new.
Yeah, right. And to me, that's true. That was an association of if it's a movie, because movie theaters show new movies, and then they eventually come to, at the time would be VHS, and then eventually they would play on TV. So if they're on TV, they're even super old. Obviously, if they're in black and white, they're like super, super duper old.
Like Clerks.
Which blew my mind, by the way. Schindler's List, as a kid, blew my mind because I thought it was a movie back
You
then.
thought it was a documentary.
I mean, it's in black and white, but I'm like, but that's, but it's like, what, but that, I know that guy from other stuff. Like I've seen him in other things, and
He's Qui-Gon Jinn.
He's Qui-Gon Jinn. Like he's in color in other things. So it doesn't make any sense. So that Schindler's List was the movie that made me realize you can choose to film movies in black and white. Like it doesn't just mean that it's old. But anyway, that's a whole nother childhood memory thing.
Tell me the characteristics of Qui-Gon Jinn.
The Red Letter Media. Yeah, so we
Stoic.
but yeah, we went and saw the special editions in the theater, and that really blew my mind. And obviously, it's basically changed my life. So I can say, like a lot of people that were there for the 77 Star Wars, first time they saw it, it changed their life, and it caused their love of movies and just fandom and finding the people that love the same things you love. Friendships and whatnot have been bonded and formed. The special editions did that for me as well as the prequels. Again, some of it is hating it, but it is.
But you're passionate about it. So
it's true. There is something there.
Yeah,
and that's better. Like in wrestling, right? Like wrestlers, you either want to be cheered or you want to be booed. If you get nothinged, you're bad.
Yeah.
You're getting cut.
You don't want indifference.
You don't want indifference. No. You want the biggest boos or the biggest cheers. But either one, that's what you want.
Or the biggest laughs.
I
guess that kind of falls in the cheers.
You want a reaction. Is the
That's what I always wanted. I just wanted the laughs.
Yeah.
When I was doing the stupid wrestling stuff. Not saying wrestling's stupid. I'm just saying when I was doing it.
He did wrestling stuff that was stupid.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
In the eyes of wrestling.
He wrestled stupidly.
I was horrible. All right.
All right. So number one for
me.
Who wants to go? Addison. All right.
Dark Knight trilogy.
Oh shit, that's mine. Oh, nice. Cheers. Hats off to you, sir. All right. Well then, go ahead.
The third one, it's got its issues. It's not terrible. I still love that it's part of the trilogy, but the second film is one of the greatest things ever made.
Oh, yeah.
I saw it so many times in IMAX in theaters. It just is a perfect film. I love Christopher Nolan. It's my favorite director. Like it's perfect.
Yeah.
And the first one, the first one's still.
The first one's good.
It's still decent. It's a great setup, but man, my God, like the Joker, it's amazing. So yeah, that's my.
So yes, however, with all its problems in the third one with the Dark Knight Rises, it still holds a special place for me because it was the last movie I saw in the theater with my brother before he died. So as much as like people knock on it, because I didn't even knocked on it then, I was just like, like I enjoyed this, but it wasn't as good as Dark Knight. And how are you going to follow up Dark Knight? Like that's really, I mean, it one could argue that the Dark Knight trilogy is like the Godfather trilogy because Godfather 2 is amazing and then Godfather 3. Not saying, do I think that Dark Knight Rises is as bad as Godfather 3? Because I don't. But it's that, hey, there's this movie that's good and this is even better. And then you're ending on a giant dip. Giant valley. But the overall story arc of Batman seeing Batman, quite literally Batman Begins, seeing him from the start all the way till when Bruce Wayne finally realizes like, I can't do this forever. And he makes his way out, which I remember a lot of people arguing like, Batman would never quit. And it's like, yes, true. But in this Christopher Nolan version of Batman, like, we had to give him an ending, and they left it open with a Robin-like character to possibly do other films outside of Christopher Nolan, or to just let the imagination of the audience do with whatever, which is what I think is really what he was going for. It's like leaving that open for, it's just to allow the viewer to take what they want out of that. I also think that had Heath Ledger not passed away, I think Dark Knight Rises would have been a different movie.
Yes.
I
honestly think just he would have been on my understanding of the Batman lore and comics and even the cartoons, the whole scene with the Scarecrow as the judge, I have a feeling that was originally supposed to be the Joker, possibly. Whether or not the Joker was going to be at all involved anymore in the story, that I don't know. I would have to ask Christopher Nolan if I ever had that opportunity to talk to him. Because that's it. If I ever actually did get to meet him, that'd be just like, all right. So, what was your original thought for how Dark Knight was going to end if Heath Ledger was still alive? So I saw Dark Knight opening night, and then I saw it again the following morning. And I saw it opening night in I can't even remember which theater it was, but I saw it just in a regular theater. But then the following day, saw it in IMAX. And what was so funny is in the IMAX theater, you have to climb up stairs to get to the seats. So I'm sitting down, and the movie has started, and it's doing that, that close up shot, like moving on.
5, 4.
Well, no. I'm talking about like the movie has started, and it's
on
like
the building.
It's zooming in on and you're on the building. You're
the heist on the prologue.
But you're starting there, and it's just slowly zooming in, and someone's walking up the steps in the theater, and I think they're walking up onto a rooftop.
Oh.
So I'm all like, I immediately was like, I don't remember that guy in the movie. And then like, oh wait, that guy's in the theater. Like,
that's a real
whoa,
person.
Like, yeah. It was just like, it was a crazy moment. Like that's how the IMAX experience, how real it felt, that for a moment, I actually thought there was a person in the theater that was in the movie. I'll never forget that, because like when I said it, I was like, huh. And then I was like, oh, and then I'm sitting next to my wife. She just starts laughing because she knows that I was pointing at a person in the theater thinking that they were in the movie. This is a cool moment.
Yeah. If we were doing a top 5, Dark Knight trilogy would be on there.
Yeah, me too.
I'm a fan of all 3 films. I actually do particularly like the third film.
I do too. I just
I
even with
love
its flaws,
Bane
I like it. I
so
like Bane.
much.
Yes, Bane's a great character.
Bane's a great character.
Yeah.
He's just not, he's the brute.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how much of a wild card the Joker is. The Joker is, I think, the greatest. That version of the Joker is the greatest villain I've ever, because I didn't know what he was going to do next.
Yeah.
And he didn't know what he was going to do next.
Yeah.
And he's freaking psycho. And it's just like,
Just makes it up as he goes along.
exactly. And that is the scariest villain that you can have.
I'm
because
like a dog, right? Like
Yeah.
Leash. If I caught the car, I would know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Just love it.
I hate to be the downer, the Debbie Downer in this.
Uh-huh.
So I was, as been mentioning, certain trilogies, when there's just one rotten apple, to me that is The Dark Knight Rises.
That's respectable.
I totally
get it.
I get all the flaws. Like
yeah,
I don't.
Oh my gosh!
But here's my thing.
Go ahead.
Batman and Robin. No, I'm just saying that was such a crap movie that as bad as you can say about Dark Knight Rises, it's not Batman and Robin.
Batman and Robin can be funny though. Out of the two, I have to watch one. I'm gonna pick Batman and Robin.
I would never
not me.
pick Batman and Robin.
Yeah,
Batman
just the
and
fact that you
Robin's one
said
of the
that,
worst
I'm
films of all
questioning.
time.
I'm questioning our friendship.
But
so is Plan 9 and The Room.
No,
and
right.
I will watch those two.
I'm defending your point.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying that it is so bad that it's funny.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I'm getting joy out of how bad it is.
Correct.
Don't confuse it. I'm not trying to say it's a good movie at all. Quite the opposite. It's super, super bad. Not super bad the movie, but it's super bad movie. Yeah, and there's a lot. But more than anything, first of all, The Dark Knight is my favorite superhero comic book movie, whatever, of all time. It is my favorite one of all time, hands down. There's nothing close second. Endgame only because of the massive conclusionness of it all. But as a singular just film, give me so many hours. The Dark Knight is it. The Dark Knight was the first script I ever bought.
Oh.
Because that whole feeling of again, like I need to watch this immediately again.
Mm-hmm.
I said yes. And so much so that I'm like, I need to find the script. I need to find how this is made. And there was a book that was printed that Christopher Nolan had, and it was basically the making of the Dark Knight in book form, like a DVD documentary, but in book form.
Mm-hmm.
So it had all the artwork and it had the script in it and everything. And I'm like, I need to buy this $40 book or whatever it was. It was expensive for the time. So yeah, but The Dark Knight Rises, which is why I was so bummed out by it too. Bane is, to me, so laughably bad that I retroactively am glad that The Dark Knight Rises exists only because of the character from the Harley Quinn show. Because the Bane character from the Harley Quinn animated series is just making fun of that version of Bane the entire time, and he is the funniest character on that show.
Okay.
So I guess in that sense, I'm glad. I can't say that I like the movie, but I'm glad that it exists only because of that cartoon series.
Okay.
And Tom Hardy's he's a great actor.
Oh, I love him.
My favorite, but
I love him pretty much everything.
And I was
else.
really looking forward to seeing him as Bane. Like I thought that was going to be a really cool thing, and then it fizzled out for me. It wasn't again terrible in my opinion. It was just like, that's not the best way.
I enjoyed his opening moment, like when you're introduced to Bane. I was like, okay,
the airplane,
that was cool.
Great.
That was great. Then eventually, over time, the character became less interesting.
Yes,
but his introduction was awesome. Was it as good as Joker's introduction? No, but it was a good introduction for a character. That opening scene with him, like perhaps just wondering why you shoot a man before throwing him off a plane. I was like, yeah, why would you shoot a man before throwing him off a plane? I'm wondering the same thing, Bane.
And Bill Burr has now entered the podcast.
Thanks for hanging out with us on iHeart Movies. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow, subscribe, and share with your fellow movie fans. Until next time, happy watching.